Summer 1793, the American South. A young man named Eli Whitney sat in a small cabin in Georgia, fiddling with wood, metal wires, and a crank. He had just graduated from Yale, originally intending to become a private tutor, yet unexpectedly found himself entangled in an invention that would utterly transform the course of human history. A seemingly crude but immensely powerful machine, the cotton gin. This machine required no steam power, nor was it complicated, just one person turning a crank. Raw cotton was fed into a structure, resembling a comb made of metal teeth. The seeds were left behind, while the white fibers were separated out. The efficiency was astonishing. What once took 50 people a full day's labor to clean could now be completed by one person in just a few hours. No one could have imagined that this simple device would become the spark igniting the global wave of industrialization. Cotton, the true fuel of the Industrial Revolution. We often say the Industrial Revolution began with Watt's steam engine, but if we examine its true source of power, the real fuel was cotton. In late 18th century Britain, the nation was undergoing an unprecedented technological leap. Factories sprang up, machines roared, and the first material these machines devoured was cotton. The fabric production chain was long. Harvesting, seed removal, carding, spinning, weaving. Each step had once relied on manual labor. Time-consuming, labor-intensive, and costly. But when steam engines merged with mechanization, everything changed overnight. British textile mills experienced exponential growth in output. Fabric prices continued to fall. Cotton cloth, once affordable only to the wealthy, gradually entered ordinary households. Clothing ceased to be a luxury and became an affordable necessity. This marked the first time in human history that the prototype of a mass consumption society began to emerge. Yet a problem arose. The more efficient the machines, the more voracious their demand for raw materials. Britain did not grow cotton domestically. Its factories required a constant, ever-increasing supply of raw cotton, more and cheaper. Thus, eyes turned toward the Americas. The cotton gin, liberating cotton, enslaving people. Before Whitney's cotton gin, the American South had vast tracts of land suitable for cotton cultivation, but faced a fatal bottleneck. Most of the cotton grown was upland green seed cotton, whose seeds were extremely difficult to separate manually. The high cost of processing rendered it nearly unprofitable. The cotton gin solved this problem overnight. Suddenly, growing upland cotton became highly profitable. Data shows, in 1792, the states of South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia produced a total of 3,000 bales of cotton. 10 years later, production surged to 136,000 bales, weighing 68 million pounds. By the mid-19th century, annual U.S. cotton production exceeded 1 billion pounds, accounting for over 70% of global supply. Cotton became white gold, and the force extracting it was millions of enslaved African Americans. Ironically, Whitney initially believed his invention would not cause unemployment, since no one had previously wanted to do such grueling work. But he was wrong. The cotton gin did not reduce the need for labor. Instead, it triggered massive agricultural expansion, which in turn created an unprecedented demand for labor. Thus began a brutal process of internal colonization. The Louisiana Purchase, an imperial deal paved for cotton, as the cotton gin transformed Southern agriculture. Another deeply consequential political event quietly unfolded. In 1803, U.S. President Thomas Jefferson learned that Napoleon's French government planned to take over Spain's vast North American territories, including New Orleans and the Mississippi River Basin. If France controlled this strategic gateway, the export route for America's Western agricultural products would be choked off. Jefferson promptly dispatched envoy James Monroe to Paris, authorizing him to pay up to $10 million for the New Orleans region. Unexpectedly, due to military defeat in Haiti's independence war and financial strain, France offered instead to sell the entire Louisiana territory for $15 million. This deal instantly doubled the size of the United States, granting it vast fertile lands stretching from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains, later known as the heartland of the Cotton Kingdom. At the time, no one foresaw the profound connection between this acquisition and cotton. But soon, the geographical logic became clear. Soil in Virginia and other regions had been severely degraded by decades of tobacco farming, while areas like Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana boasted hot, humid climates and rich soil, ideal for cotton. Thus, the Cotton Belt expanded steadily southwestward, forming a cotton corridor running through the American South. The commercialization of the slave trade, human lives tied to cotton prices, With the explosive growth of the cotton economy, a cold market law emerged. Slave prices began to directly correlate with international cotton prices. In upper southern states like Virginia and Maryland, tobacco industries declined, leaving many slaves as surplus assets. Meanwhile, in the emerging cotton plantations of the lower South, there was an extreme shortage of labor. Thus, a massive domestic slave trade arose. Tens of thousands of black men, women, and children were loaded onto ships or marched in chains, hundreds of miles to plantations in the Mississippi Delta. This journey became known as the Slave Trail of Tears, during which countless individuals died or were torn from their families. Contemporary auction records reveal that slave pricing even developed industry standards. If cotton sells for 12 cents per pound, a prime male slave is worth $1,200. If it rises to 15 cents, the price jumps to $1,500. But this formula didn't always hold. During periods of speculative frenzy, slave prices sometimes sharply diverged from cotton market trends, creating a bubble. One slave trader once wrote, "People buy black slaves, like lottery tickets, hoping they'll appreciate in value." Humanity, in the face of cotton profits, was quantified and dehumanized. The global chain, from American plantations to British mills. Raw cotton grown in the American South was shipped via the port of New Orleans across the Atlantic, eventually arriving at textile mills in Manchester and Liverpool. There, steam-powered spinning machines ran day and night, transforming raw cotton into yarn, then woven fabric, sold globally. By the mid-19th century, cotton accounted for over half of all U.S. exports, many times greater than the second-largest export. Financial markets in London and New York began closely monitoring weather, pests, and harvests in the South, as these factors directly impacted cotton futures prices. And as fabric prices continued to drop, more ordinary people gained access to clean, neat clothing. In a way, clothing freedom was an unintended gift of this cotton revolution. The weight beneath the softness. The t-shirts, bed sheets, and towels we use every day carry within them a complex history interwoven with technology, capital, exploitation, and globalization. Cotton, the softest of plant fibers, moved the hardest gears of history. It propelled the Industrial Revolution, reshaped national borders, spurred transoceanic trade, and deepened one of humanity's darkest institutions, slavery. Eli Whitney may never have imagined that his hand-cranked little machine would not only transform agriculture, but ignite a complete reorganization of the global economic order. And that casual remark, "It won't put anyone out of work," ultimately became one of history's most tragic ironies. Next time you pick up a cotton garment, remember, it is not merely woven from fibers, but from countless faiths, sweat, and the currents of an era. Thank you for watching. See you next time.